Thank you for having me. So you pronounce my name, I would say, quite well. So it's Ousseynou Anif Bey. So as you mentioned, I'm a senior solutions architect with AWS, and I've been with AWS for over 2 years and a half. And I'm looking after Sub-Saharan Africa and especially West Africa. So today I'll be presenting to you our services around IoT. So let me share my screen. So are you seeing my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes, all good.
Okay. So at AWS, when we start engagement around IoT, we like to start it with this question. So actually we ask our customers, if you could know the state of everything and could reason on top of that data, what problem would you solve? And I would say everything is in this last sentence. So what problem would you solve? So the services we build at AWS are about solving your business problem and seeing IoT as having things.
Melody. Hello.
So seeing IoT as having things connected together is a simplistic way of seeing it, but the main goal is solving business problems you have. So here you see few of the customers we are working with in the IoT fields, and it's definitely not all of them, but few, and I will name some of them. So for instance, iRobot. I don't know if you are familiar with iRobot and maybe their Roomba device. Those are robots you have in your house that would do the vacuuming, and they are using AWS IoT to manage those devices, and they have a team of 10 people to take care of all their millions of devices, and that could not have been possible if we do not provide automation and things, services like that. And I will go a little bit more into details later on. And another example I can also mention is Enel. Enel in Italy is a utility company, and they use AWS Greengrass to manage smart meters. So millions of smart meters, and in terms of use cases, they do energy consumption management, they do fraud detection, just to name a few. And I will finish with Volkswagen, that is using AWS IoT to make their car production more efficient. So reduce the time to build a car, do predictive maintenance, predictive quality, just to name a few. So as you see previously, the customers we have are in different verticals, and kind of problem that we try to solve are, for instance, performance is in industry. I talk about Volkswagen. We have also healthcare with Philips, and for instance, building management and building efficiency. We have customers that are leveraging AWS IoT on that. Revolutionizing agriculture, connected vehicle, and also the safety, because IoT also can be used at companies to take care of safety of their employee, just to name a few. So now I will talk about the fundamentals of AWS IoT. So what are they? So you will see them in this sort of 3-layer cake. So we have at the bottom what we call device software. So the question you ask yourself is, how do I build devices that operate at the edge? And then we have a second set of services that we call connectivity and control. And now you are trying to control, to manage, to secure and to do so at scale. So working with 10 devices, working with millions of devices with the same way of proceeding. And on top of that, there is, I would say the most important question is, how do I make sense of my data? So I've collected data, now what is next? So how do I leverage that data in my business, making processes more intelligent or reducing cost? And we will see that in AWS, we see these different areas as a virtual cycle, meaning that you have a device, you connect it to the cloud, you generate data. It means you would have also more devices, and we have this virtuous cycle as long as you are getting business value out of it. And your device, our goal is to make it more intelligent over the time. So the goal of this is intelligence and business outcome. So, and in these different areas, we have set of services to help you achieve your business goals. So I will start with the device side of it. So in the device side, again, the question you would ask yourself is, how can I build and operate intelligent device software with AWS IoT? And it starts with Amazon FreeRTOS. And Amazon FreeRTOS is based on the open source FreeRTOS that some of you might know. It is a real-time operating system for microcontrollers. And microcontrollers, I would say, is a minimal chip that you can have to control electronic devices. So you can find that in thermostat, you can find that in light bulb. It is, I would say, the minimal unit that you can have to control electronic devices. So FreeRTOS is an open source operating system for microcontroller, and Amazon has built on it by creating libraries that would allow you from FreeRTOS to be able to connect to AWS IoT or to connect to AWS IoT Greengrass that we will see later on. And have ease of connectivity, the security also. Whatever we do at Amazon, we like to say that security is job zero. So that's what we do first. So security, and also over-the-air capability. So those capability could be updating firmware, could be also remote actions also you can have on devices. So just to give you an example of a customer that is leveraging Amazon FreeRTOS, one of our customers is iDevice, and they use actually AWS IoT to power their intelligent light switch. So here you see a light switch that is also integrated with Amazon Alexa that you might know from our device that's called Echo, and it allows you to have voice interaction with your devices. And here you see you combine voice interaction plus a device on which you cannot put a microprocessor. So you are obligated to put hardware like microcontrollers in such tiny space, I would say. So that's Amazon FreeRTOS that they are leveraging. So what other question also we have from our customers is, how can we extend AWS capability at the edge? And here I believe I need to define a little bit what we mean by edge. So at AWS, when we talk about edge, what we mean is that customers, they need in certain use case to process data closer to where that data is being generated. And you might ask, why would you want to do that? And And the reason we categorize in three parts. One is law of physics. So the speed of light is a constant, and having a round trip to the cloud, depending on your use case, could be too much. So you might have an equipment that need to react in milliseconds, and having to go to the cloud to process and then get an information back. If your connectivity is intermittent, that might not be able. And I'm talking about intermittent, but there are also systems where you are just offline for a long period of time. So you see that, for instance, from our customers like Rio Tinto, a mining company, they sometimes work in areas that do not have network coverage, but they still need to process data locally. So that's what we call law of physics. There's also law of economics. Data have a relative weight. So we know that data is the new oil. We know that, but we know also that there is a lot of data that is being generated. So all data is not, I would say, meant to be sent to the cloud because of the cost that it would generate. So to give you an example, you might have a device that is tracking temperature, and the temperature could be 20 degrees Celsius for an hour, and then change to 30. And in your business, maybe what matters is this change. It came from 20 to 30, I need to react. But maybe you don't need to have every millisecond of data that it was at 20 being sent to the cloud, just to give you an example of what we mean by this law of the economics. And I will finish, but what we call law of the land. And I would say it's a simple one. It's for instance, government creating law that prevent certain data to be sent to the cloud, or even policies in companies. And here also an example I can give you. If you look at the medical, for instance, a hospital, they might have data that are quite sensible, that they have policies or even law that say that this data should be processed locally and should not be sent to the cloud. So I would say it's a simple law. You just cannot do certain things. And here you are obligated to process the data locally. So what do we offer to manage those use cases? So we have AWS IoT Greengrass that would help you remotely manage your fleet of devices. And that can help you also do machine learning inference. So you can have model that you train in the cloud and then deploy in the device, and you could reason with the data you have locally and decide action you can do. And you can also extract, aggregate, filter data, and you can optimize before you send data to the cloud. And the capability of AWS IoT Greengrass are, first of all, local messaging. And it means that when you are offline, you still have the capability to discuss locally in terms of device. So you can have a gateway that will be able to discuss with devices that are local. You can think of that as a local network. And once the internet connectivity is there, you can discuss, you can connect to the cloud. And one capability also we have is the choice of runtime. With Greengrass, you have the capability to run Lambda function. Lambda function is one of our services in the cloud, and that allows you to run code without having to provision yourself the underlying infrastructure. So you would pay only as you use, and the scaling will be also automatically managed by AWS on the cloud. So that capability we have in the cloud, we bring in the edge with Greengrass. And we listen also to our customers because they tell us that it's a great feature to have Lambda at the edge, but we used to develop with containers, and we have Docker containers, and we want also to be able to deploy those in Greengrass. We listened, and also it's now supported. Just to give you an example of runtime we have. Machine learning inference, I talked about it. And also we have a stream manager. A stream manager is the capability to have data stream. And there is data stream, a characteristic is the high frequency. So you would have data that would be generated in a high frequency, and your device being constrained, you cannot store that data locally. Because for instance, if you have 100 megabyte of local storage, once that's full, you will need to rotate the data or you might lose data. So you need to have a mechanism where you can send those data to the cloud, and that's what Stream Manager does. And there's also Secrets Manager, and Secrets Manager, as the name inferred, allows you to store securely secrets. So those could be credential. So you don't need to have secrets that are being cleared to be shared between application and so on. So it's stored, it's encrypted, and you need to have the policies that are required to be able to access those. So just to give you an overview. And an example of customers that is using Greengrass. So Pentair, they are providing water filtration. So water filtration in fish farming, and as you may understand, if there is no connectivity to the cloud, you still need to take care of the fish. So you need to be able to reason locally. So if, for instance, there is disease or I don't know, a problem in the water, you need to be able to detect that and act on that, even if you don't have cloud connectivity. And that's what they are using Greengrass for. Just to give you an example of a customer using AWS Greengrass. So again, to give you more of the, I'm sorry, but okay, just minimizing the video feed I'm seeing because it's masking quite a bit of my screen. So, so just to give you, I would say, a more practical view of Greengrass. So you have the remote fleet management capability where you can deploy and manage millions of devices. So as I said also on my introduction, it works for 10 devices, it works also for millions of devices. And that's the power, I would say, of the cloud. And I talked about also the component and the fact that you can deploy also Docker containers and so on. It has also the capability of over-the-air update. So for the Greengrass software itself, you have that capability. So where there is security enhancements and so on. And security also is by default. And when I say by default, is that when you need to connect to AWS IoT Core, it's a prerequisite to have authentication that is set up properly. So meaning that if you don't set up that authentication, you cannot even connect to AWS IoT Core. So it's reinforced. And you have local tooling, like console that you can also use to do the managing, debugging. And one aspect that is very important, I would say, is the access capability you have to local resources. Because when we say IoT, we don't necessarily always mean small. We talked about small devices like the light switch, but not necessarily always small devices. It could be also powerful devices with multiple CPUs, and we have a device that's called Snowball Edge, and that is a device that you can order from AWS to send your data to the cloud, and those kind of devices also can run Greengrass. And the fact that you can have access to the local resources means that if that's a powerful device, you can leverage also the capability of that device. So one other question also that our customers ask us is, how can we know that our device will work with AWS IoT? And to help with that, we have an AWS IoT device tester. And what this does is that, let's say you buy a device on the market and you want to troubleshoot it and to understand if, for instance, Greengrass or Amazon FreeRTOS would work on it. AWS IoT device tester will run a set of tests on it to test, for instance, the connectivity, the security libraries, and for Greengrass, it will test the CPU architecture. It will test also the Linux kernel to understand if it will work with AWS and tell you if you can use that device or not. And actually, we have partner devices that we certified, and they use also our device tester and then send us the report in their process of getting certified. So we talked about the device side. So now I would like just to discuss a little bit about the control, the connectivity and control services. Okay, so here, the question also our customers ask us is, how can I connect securely and handle data at scale? And the at scale here is very important. So we provide AWS IoT Core. And AWS IoT Core allows to connect securely to the cloud, and it allows also for message routing. So devices talking to each other and devices also connecting to the cloud. And we have also a capability that we call device shadow that allows you actually to interact with the device, even if the device is offline. So you would get the latest status of the device, and then you can act upon that. And once the device is online, the synchronization will happen. So that's one capability that AWS IoT Core has. And finally, you have the capability to leverage all the services, no, I wouldn't say all, but leverage our AWS cloud-based services. And some of them, for instance, databases. You could have data coming from devices that you would store on a key pair type of database like DynamoDB. You can do analytics on it. You can do machine learning. I talked a little bit about it. So integration with our AWS cloud services. And just to dive deeper into AWS IoT Core, so there is an identity service. So devices have unique identities and they have certificates, and you have a device gateway that will manage the connectivity. We have a message broker, and this message broker in IoT, we use often MQTT, message queue telemetry transport, which is a lightweight protocol to discuss between connected devices. So it has a low footprint in terms of memory and in terms of also networking. So you have a broker that support also MQTT, support HTTP, and also LoRa one recently. So there is also a rules engine. And what this rules engine does is that when you have a message coming to the cloud, you might decide on what to do. So let's say you have a message. I was giving you an example on temperature. So let's say you have a message and your system should not be at a certain threshold. So for instance, temperature should not be higher than 30 degrees. And the rules engine can capture that and then trigger another service, for instance, our notification service, to send a push notification or an SMS to someone to act, or even have automatic resolution. So that's also possible with the rules engine. The device shadow, I talked a little bit. It's what allows us to actually talk to device even when they are offline. And this is a powerful capability for applications also, because when you are building a mobile app, for instance, if I take the example of Roomba and iRobot, that the device that they build for home, you generally have a companion app with it. So the companion app you can use to control it. That companion app in general, they use HTTP to connect to the device shadow and do not need to implement the IoT specific protocols like MQTT. So very powerful capability if you are building application on top of your IoT devices. And there's a device registry. So the device registry, it allows you to register all your device. So device having serial numbers and having information like device type, device group, and then you can search, catalog also those information. And you have also a device advisor that will run tests on your device to alert you of maybe behaviors that were not intended. So I wanted to finish with AWS IoT Core by also talking to you about our device SDKs. So we have AWS IoT Mobile and Device SDK. And you will not be surprised if I'm talking about mobile, because I talked to you about the example of companion app. So mobile and IoT goes together in quite a lot of use cases, but this SDK, they allow you to abstract the MQTT protocol. They allow you to use also the language of your choice. So JavaScript, Python, Java, C, C++ supported. And you can now build your own connectivity to the cloud. And again, security is end-to-end with TLS, okay? So one other question we have from our customers is, how can I manage my growing fleet of devices at scale? Because managing 10 devices and managing 1 million devices could be very different depending on how your system are built. So that's where AWS IoT device management comes into play. And it allows you to fast onboard your devices. So you can have devices that are being onboarded automatically, and then the security registration is also happening on the background, I would say. Because one difficulty we had with our customers also in the past is that when you build a device that needs to have a unique certificate, if you want to manufacture that device with that unique certificate, if you have 1 million device, you would need to do that configuration for 1 million device and putting a specific certificate on each of them, which is quite time consuming. So one mechanism we create, for instance, is to have fleet provisioning, that you can have a generic device, generic certificate in a device. And once that device connects to the cloud the first time, it would get its unique certificate. And therefore, when you manufacture, the manufacturing is quite simple. You would have a generic certificate for your millionth device, but the first time they will connect, they will get their unique certificate. So other capability are in terms of indexing. So you can search your devices, you can monitor them, you can access also individual devices, which is very important capability, because if you want to troubleshoot, you might need to be connecting to a single device. And for that also we provide capability that you can use. And one of them being, we call it secure tunneling, where you can open a connection to a single device, troubleshoot. So I talked about it, I would say a little bit, so I will not come into bulk registration, and I will talk about maybe the jobs. So with device management, you have the capability to run job on green grass. And these jobs could be, for instance, rebooting the device. It could be installing software on that device. And all of that you can do remotely. So you don't need, and sometime for certain system, when you need to update it, you need to send a technician, and then they will go plug a computer, update it. So here you would do all of that remotely. Secure tunneling also, I talked about it. So one other question, how do I ensure my connected devices stay secure? So we have a service that is called AWS IoT Device Defender. And what the Device Defender does is that it will audit your system for abnormal behaviors. So let's say, for instance, you have an IoT system in Ghana that is only serving your local customers. And say one day you see a connection coming from Senegal. So it might be suspicious because the system is supposed to have only connection coming from Ghana. So those kind of audit are an example of what IoT Device Defender can do. And it could be more advanced, even using machine learning also. So where you are not going to be even deciding on, I would say, a deterministic way of generating alert, but the system will learn itself. So it will, for instance, with the data that it receives, understand that patterns, and once they see a device diverging, they would alert you. And this alert, you can mitigate. You can mitigate by notification, or you can even have action. For instance, this example I gave you from a device connecting from Senegal, if it's not supposed to happen, you can, for instance, act on the certificate, because the certificate you can activate, you can deactivate, you can deactivate that certificate. Therefore, that device will not be able to connect to your system anymore. And then you can investigate and understand why this happened. But if it was a breach to your system, you could act automatically. So now want to talk about the analytics services. So now we are in the part of, I have the data now in the cloud. What do I do with it? So I will start with, again, also questions that we have from customers. So how do I liberate data that was once locked in industrial facilities? So what does it mean? In a lot of industry, and if I take, for instance, the aviation, the manufacturing, for instance, manufacturing planes, manufacturing cars, and so on, for years, for decades, I should say, they have had devices that generates data. But most of the time, that data do not leave the facility. So there's data, but that's not going any further than the facility. So how do I unlock that data? How do I leverage it? How do I make sense of it? So we created a service that's called AWS IoT Sitewise. And what IoT Sitewise is exactly that. So those industrial equipment, we provide you a gateway that will help you model the data, ingest the data, label it, and then generate real-time KPIs and metrics. And that will help you, of course, have better data-driven decisions. And on top of that, also, we provide you with visualization capability. So that you can reason also on top of that data. And to make it simpler, we created AWS IoT Sitewise Monitor, which is a web application that will be able to do that monitoring I talked about. Okay. So I just saw a notification and I wanted to know what that was. So this web application will allow you to to do all that I've talked about earlier. So to monitor, to organize, to get the KPIs, but not needing to be able to connect, not needed to connect to AWS console. So you would have a web application that is going to be hosted on your system and that you can access independently of our console. So now, still on the how do I reason on top of that data, we created a service that's called AWS IoT Analytics. And AWS IoT Analytics, actually, it will help you collect the data, enrich it, store it, analyze it, visualize it, and it will do that in what we call in a managed and serverless way. So meaning that you as customer, you do not need to provision servers. You do not need to manage life cycle of servers. That's being taken care of by AWS. And this service sole goal is to help you get meaningful insight from your data. And in this process part, you can enrich your data from data coming from different sources. It could be relational database, it could be time series database, and other services that you would get data and enrich your data you want to analyze and then do your computation on it. So again, another question, how can I detect change across industrial systems? So this question is very relevant, mainly when you have devices that are comprised of multiple components and multiple sensors. Because when we talk IoT, you might have, for instance, an equipment that you are monitoring, and you are monitoring the vibration, you are monitoring the temperature, and you are monitoring many other aspects. But you are getting individual data from each of these sensors. But to know if your equipment is functioning normally, is functioning in a nominal way, it's a combination of all those information that will help you decide. And that could be very complex if you have a device that has 100 or even more sensors. And to help you with that, we have a service that's called AWS IoT Events, and that will allow you to build in a visual way. So here you don't need to write code. In a visual way, you'll be able to monitor your system. So what you would do is give the logic to say what is a normal behavior. For instance, it's too hot, it's too cold, it's too slow, it's too many, too few. So you decide what is the threshold, and then once that is breached, you will have a detection, and then you can again trigger response to that. So the component in a lower level are event detectors, and event detectors, they could be deterministic. So you know when it happens, you define that model, and then once it happens, it will trigger actions. Or you can use also machine learning detectors, again, having the data you have being used to train models, machine learning model, and then we'll decide when an event should be triggered. And when it's triggered, again, you can have actions on other AWS services. So you can notify, you can also take remediation actions. As I mentioned, for instance, deactivating a certificate if you think that you should not have gotten event from that device. And to finish with, always at scale, always at scale. You don't just build for 10 devices. What you build should work if you go even to millions and more. So again, another question, how can I how can I visually build the IoT application that contain legacy devices in AWS? So sometimes what we see at our customers is that they have IoT devices that are on the field at customers, at the end customers. And those devices, they cannot be updated properly to connect to the cloud, for instance, because they have constraint, maybe in terms of hardware. As I told you, we have Greengrass, we have FreeRTOS, but they have requirements in terms of hardware. For instance, for FreeRTOS, the RAM, the random access memory, should be more than 64 kilobytes. And for Greengrass, the RAM should be more than 96 megabytes. So just to give you an example of why certain device could not be updated with those software. So what do we have in those cases? So we have what we call AWS IoT Syncs Graph, and Syncs Graph will allow you to build an IoT application as workflow. So again, you would have a visual interface that you would build, you would create models, and models will represent devices, and devices with different protocols, devices with different manufacturers, but that have common, I would say, characteristics. So if, for instance, they are cameras of different providers, they are still cameras. So there are characteristics of camera that you can model, and that would fit all of them. And you are not managing the underlying protocols to talk to those systems. And again, it's a drag and drop visual interface. So little to no code to write. And that workflow you are going to build is going to be generated as code. And that code can be deployed to the cloud, or it can also be deployed to the edge on Greengrass that I've mentioned earlier. So now I want to discuss a little bit how you could get started, on your own journey. So first, the services that I've presented to you. So we have a wide range of services that can help you solve business problem. I give you also a few examples of how our customers are using them in a meaningful way. We have also partners. So partners that can be consulting companies, that can be also software providers, that can be hardware, also chip manufacturers, and that can help you also on your journey. And we have also what we call AWS solutions. And AWS solutions, they are solutions that are built by AWS or our partners, and that you can use, I would say, they are ready to use because they have a CloudFormation template, and CloudFormation is our infrastructure as code solution. So you have a code that you can deploy in your environment and start learning about our services and start building things that are meaningful. And I will talk to you a little more about the solutions later on. But an important question that you might have is, where do I get my device? So you want to build a connected camera, but you want to connect it to AWS. How do you make sure that the device you will buy will work with AWS out of the box? Because it's important, out of the box. So we have this website, devices.amazonaws.com, where you will find the devices that are certified as working with AWS. So this is a good starting point if you want to buy devices. And AWS IoT solutions, I talked a bit about it, but we have solutions like connected factories, we have camera connectors, we have connected vehicle also solutions that are here ready for you to just download and run into your environment. And to access that, the link is here, you see, and I will share the slides also So now we have seen all these three aspects. So I would like to ask you a question. So now that you know the state of everything, or now that you can reason on top of that data, what problem would you solve? Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks very much, Lucy. Do we have any questions? Do we have any questions?
Yes, Gary.
Okay, Gary, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good presentation. Thank you for that. The question I have, no worries. Question I have is there a place where you have maybe case studies of industries that use this? Yep.
Yes. So I can share it with you later on, but we have a publicly accessible website where you can access all our case studies, and by industry and also by technology. For instance, if you want to look for IoT, I will share that with you later on.
Cool. And at the development stage and learning and sort of finding your feet in this technology, is there like maybe like a free period that you could sort of just to learn and develop and test and try out?
Sorry, I didn't hear. Free what?
Is there some sort of like a free plan or free period, or what is the pricing structure?
Sure. Okay, so we have what we call free tier. So when you create an AWS account for a year, you are eligible to free tier. And what it means is that there are quotas that you will not need to I would say to breach. I don't know if the correct term, but for instance,
that's cool.
I can give you an example. So if we take, for instance, the messaging you are sending to the cloud using MQTT. So in the free tier, you would have a quota. So it could be like 10,000 messages that you can send for free. And it goes for the other services depending on their pricing model. So for instance, in Greengrass, the pricing model is around the number of devices you have. So again, you would have a quota of devices that you can run freely for a year at no cost. So yes, there is a free tier mechanism at AWS. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? You can also type your questions in the chat.
I have a question.
Okay, Melissa, go ahead.
So let's say I've just come across maybe AWS and IoT, and I've got a simple use case. I just want to control the lights in my house. What services, or where would I start building something like that?
Yeah. So what I would advise in terms of such use case is, first of all, go to our AWS IoT solutions. So we have solutions that we built internally at AWS. We have also solutions that have been built by our partners. And I show you a few examples. I just mentioned it, but there are solutions around connected home, connected factories, connected vehicles, and so on. So look into those solutions, and you might just find what you need to get started.
Great, thanks. That was a great talk. Thanks, Ose.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ose, whilst we wait for other questions, so I have some Arduino boards. Can I install free outsource on it?
Absolutely, and actually, even Greengrass, I believe, is supported. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah. So my answer is yes, but if you want more details on it, I can also come back to you with maybe some link on how to do it. Yeah.
Okay. So from your presentation, I gathered that, for instance, if I want to build my own IoT solution and the hardware is not ready, I can use the shadow service and the APIs provided to actually demonstrate or simulate how my device will interact with AWS, right?
Right. And also when your device is not ready, actually, maybe that part I did not mention, but I mentioned that you can run Docker container in Greengrass, but you can also run Greengrass in Docker container. So it means that you can run Greengrass on Windows, on your testing environment, and then you can do, you can do quite a bit of things in testing on that way. Yeah.
So literally you can run a software on any compute unit to mimic your IoT device and
definitely
AWS IoT services.
Definitely. And again, I will repeat myself, but IoT does not always mean small. So we have customers that are using Blade servers to run these kind of services. So it all depends also on the use case. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Perpetual in the chat says she would explore the light solution in her home. This is something I already have. I didn't build it, but I bought already made solutions. I have quite a number of them. But it'll be interesting to build. I've been thinking about building, instead of buying a door camera, I'm thinking of building one that detects faces and all that. So it's something I also look into in the future. Perpetual will be working on the lights one. I guess other people here have other interesting problems they want to solve in their homes as well.
That's great. That's
okay,
great.
So if there are no other questions, I will hand over to Edwin.
I got one more question.
Okay, go ahead.
Really, as a group, I don't know if there's anyone that has an idea in mind and wants to sort of team up. I'll be up for that as well. If they want to team up and try and solve a problem that they have using this technology.
Gary, are you on our Slack channel?
I've got to get back onto it because I've changed devices recently, so I've got to get back onto the Slack channel. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What's your full name so we can look you up?
Okay, it's Gary Anthony Scott. I think it was that account I was using anyway. So.
All right. You can type it in the chat for me, please.
Yeah, I'll type it in the chat and I'll go from there. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks very much. And Ousseynou, thanks a lot for making the time. I mean, once we got into contact, he was so excited to this, and it's been a very great presentation, considering the number of IoT services AWS has, and he was able to group them and then take us through almost all of them. So thank you very much for introducing most of us to AWS IoT services, and hopefully we can build home projects and team up and build some other projects in the future. Thanks very much. We'll keep in touch.
Thank you.
Edwin, over to you.
Yeah, Ousseynou, thank you very much. I mean, wonderful presentation there. I mean, I think IoT, a lot of us are not too versed in the space, so there's a lot of learning for us, and I think the way you organize the content, like Emma said, was good. What I would have wished we had on top was like a demo, but I think with that, we will just ask you to share the, if you can just share the link to the use cases or some links or resources with some demos or whatever, I think we will share with the community and we can take from there. Yeah. So.
Yes. That's a very good point. And actually, it's something also I would be even happy to do with you also on a future session.
Okay.
So, and I want also just to introduce you to what we call AWS IoT Edu Kit. So we have an educational kit that is a hardware that you can buy, and that hardware actually we built for exactly this purpose. So of learning, reducing the skill gap. And I'll be happy to have another session to talk to you about that. And one of the things also is that today I wanted to give you an overview of our portfolio, but as you see, it's quite large. And again, I would be happy also to dive deeper into one of those areas. So I hear that you're interested in having like use cases of building light control mechanism. So why not take that example, think of what are the services that it would involve, and would be happy to do a dive deep session into those services.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be great. Thank you very much, Ousseynou. So
Thanks to you. Thanks to you.
yeah, we will definitely be having an IoT on AWS part 2 to
Great.
dive deeper and have some use cases demoed and all that. All right. So at this point, I will take up the screen and then
just if I may,
please go ahead.
So this QR code that you see in the screen, I don't know if people already scan it, but it's a survey. So it would be great if you could take that survey. So it would not take you more than 2 minutes to do, and to give us feedback so that we can improve for later on, and tell us also what you want to see also later on. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I will say thank you. Yeah, so please let's scan and be able to do the survey. So let's do that. At least we can scan and get the link now, because I will take away the screen. I'll take over the screen and do the raffle so that we can close. Yeah. So,
wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, Ousseynou, thank you very much. Let me scan myself now. Okay, so I have the link. So Ousseynou, you can stop sharing your screen. I'll take over.
Okay.